So I did a video about Donald Trump getting booed out of the room at the Libertarian National Convention, and in that video I talked about how he didn't know how to read the room. He was so used to repeating his same tired talking points to MAGA and them lapping it up that he didn't know what to do when he got in front of an audience that wasn't buying it. But there was one moment where he went completely against everything he's been preaching for the last couple of years and tried to throw the libertarians a bone when he promised to pardon a drug dealer. Take a look at this clip.
And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
So Ross Ulbricht was first arrested back in 2013. He created a dark web network known as the Silk Road. It was used to traffic drugs to over 100,000 people, and his network sales was over $183 million. He was convicted on 7 counts of distributing narcotics, and he's now serving 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. He's only 40 years old. I'm not here to say that he shouldn't be pardoned. I mean, I realize that is a pretty harsh sentence, and there is a lot of people in this world who have done way worse and got out in just a couple of years. But Donald Trump could have pardoned him during his entire presidency. He also, the Supreme Court, refused to hear his final appeal in 2018. So Donald Trump didn't care about him back then. The only time that Ross Ulbricht's name came up in Donald Trump's world is when he looked out at this hostile crowd, some of which was holding signs that said "Free Ross," and he said, "Oh, wait, okay, yeah, if you vote for me, I'll do that for you too." He was simply trying to dig himself out of a hole, but in doing so, he was going against everything that he's been saying for so long, because we've heard him talk about what he would love to see happen to drug dealers. Take a look at this clip.
Saying criminal in China for drugs, by the way, means that's serious. They're getting a maximum penalty, and you know what the maximum penalty is in China for that, and it goes very quickly. It's interesting, where you have Singapore, they have very little drug problem. Where you have China, they have very little drug problem. States with a very powerful death penalty on drug dealers don't have a drug problem. I don't know that our country is ready for that, but if you look throughout the world, the countries with a powerful death penalty with a fair but quick trial, they have very little, if any, drug problem. That includes China.
I talk a whole lot about how that in order to be a Donald Trump supporter, you have to jump through the hoops in his mental gymnastics game. So I'm sitting here trying to wrap my mind around how this one works for MAGA, because if you went out to a rally and you heard him speak about executing drug dealers at every rally he does, and you heard about him talking about how that in other countries they have much stricter punishments and they have no drug problem whatsoever, and you really believe that and supported that idea, then how could you look over at him in front of a hostile crowd of people who do not identify as MAGA? They're libertarian. They don't agree with you in your politics. They're holding up signs that says "Free Ross," and then you see your guy say, "Oh yeah, I'll free him too." I mean, shouldn't that make you want to say, "Hey, wait a minute, don't go there. Don't sell yourself out for these people. They're booing you out of the room." I mean, if I truly supported Donald Trump and believed in everything he was saying, I would be disappointed at this moment. I'd be saying he should have been like, "Fuck Ross. He's a drug dealer. He's getting what he deserves." But he didn't. He just sold himself out, promised to do something that he ain't going to do. I mean, once he gets in there, he's going to forget completely that he even said that. And he's going to go right back to how he truly is. But in this next clip I want to show you, he talks about, Donald Trump loves to brag about dictators and how strong they are and how fast they act, and he loves that about them. So here he is again talking about what he would do to drug dealers.
Understand his strength. They understand strength, and it'll all stop. When I met with President Xi of China, I said, "Do you have a drug problem?" No, we have no drug problem. Why is that? Quick trial. I said, "Tell me about a quick trial." When they catch the seller of drugs, right, the purveyor of drugs, they immediately give them, the drug dealers, they immediately give them a trial. Takes one day. At the end of that day, if they're guilty, which they always are, according to people that study this, I don't think anybody has never been guilty. Within one day, that person is executed. They execute the drug dealers. They have zero drug problem. Zero. They have zero drug problem in Singapore and other places. Instead, we set up blue ribbon committees made of dilettantes from all over the country that know.
You know what is so hypocritical about all of this to me is Donald Trump is the guy that always says we got to put America first. And he tells MAGA that America is their country and nobody else's. Anyone who disagrees with MAGA is communist, Marxist, socialist. We're vermin that needs to be rooted out. Anyone coming here to seek a better life, they're poisoning the blood of the country. Those are his talking points. But yet in the same breath, he will turn around and praise other countries for how they do things and tell his crowd how much better those other countries have it because their leader can just walk all over top of everybody. I have never seen nothing like this in my life. Despite a Democrat or Republican, I've never saw a candidate go out and just say, I'm putting America first, but meanwhile talk about how great other countries are. It's always been the other way around. It's always been that candidates go out and say, hey, look, these countries over here, they don't have the freedoms that we have. We're going to spread democracy to them so they can have the same rights that we have. That's how it's usually always been. But Donald Trump does the exact opposite. He always praises dictators, talks about how great they have it in other countries, and then how we have to put America first. It doesn't even make sense, and it's totally hypocritical. And I've got one more clip to show you just how hypocritical Donald Trump is on this issue, because here he is bragging about pardoning a lady, and the host points out to him, hey, under your plan, this lady would have been executed. And again, watch how Donald Trump ducks and dodges and actually is just completely confused.
I focused on nonviolent crime. As an example, a woman who you know very well was in jail. She had 24 more years to serve. She served for 22 years. She had 20.
Alice Johnson.
Alice.
She was in the Super Bowl.
High quality. Oh, yeah. I said, how many years? And she was on a telephone call, and they were involved in selling marijuana, mostly marijuana. And she got like 50 years in jail.
But she'd be killed under your plan.
Huh?
As a drug dealer.
No. Under that, it would depend on the severity. It would depend on the severity.
She's technically a former drug dealer. She had multi-million-dollar cocaine ring.
Any drug dealer, look.
So even Alice Johnson in that ad.
She can't do it, okay? By the way, if that was there, no, she wouldn't be killed. It would start as of now, so you wouldn't go to the past.
I know, but your policy.
No, but they're starting now, yeah.
I love how he says, well, she couldn't be executed now because I've already pardoned her. Well, that wasn't the question. But you could tell that he was a total lost ball in high weeds right there, and he was literally just making it up as he went along. And I don't see how anyone that supports him can look over at him and not see that he completely got lost there. That's the part I'll never understand, is he gets lost, and it's blatantly obvious to anybody who can see it. And yet they will see that, and they will think that the reporter is picking on him. He gets in front of a hostile crowd. He can't figure out a way to dig himself out of it. They'll say the crowd was picking on him. No, what happened was his same old worn-out talking points and same old worn-out cliches does not work outside of his rallies where everyone is safe. And I hate to give the guy any credit, but I did hear someone say that when it comes to grifting, the guy's Picasso. He really is, and there is an art to what he does. I hate to give him credit for this, but there is an art to what he does. He goes out here and he repeats these things over and over. Crooked Joe, Sleepy Joe. If he says that enough over and over and over, and other MAGA influencers latch onto those talking points and they repeat it over and over and over, it doesn't have to be true. The more times that he repeats it, the more that it will become their alternative fact. It will become their truth to them. He goes out here, everything is a crooked trial, it's a conflicted judge, it's a witch hunt, it's a Biden trial, there's a deep state. Anytime you hear him using this kind of language, that is all straw man arguments. That's what it is. He's building up the straw man so he can tear it down for the sake of his argument. And the MAGA influencers will go right along with it and repeat it. You know, I heard a story one time about Lee Atwater. Lee Atwater was George H.W. Bush's political advisor. He was pretty much the Karl Rove to Poppy Bush. And one time Lee Atwater went out on television and just said a whole bunch of things that were not true at all. And there was a young intern that worked for him. And when Atwater came off stage, the young intern said, Mr. Atwater, those things you were saying, they're not true. And Atwater said, well, it is now because I said it on TV. Donald Trump has adopted that philosophy. MAGA influencers have adopted that philosophy to the point that they know if they just keep repeating it and keep saying it, that it will stick. and that it will become the truth in their world. It will become an alternative fact if they just continue to keep saying it over and over. So there is an art to this grift, and they're all using it to their advantage to grift people and to con people, and at the end of the day to undermine and destroy American democracy. But getting back just a minute to Ross Ulbricht, serving 2 life sentences. He's 40 years old, serving 2 life sentences. I will say that's pretty harsh. I'm not here to say that he shouldn't be pardoned, but I'm saying it's hypocritical for Donald Trump to go out there and talk about how he wants to execute drug dealers and talk about how that he's talked to foreign leaders and they're all for it, and they talk about how great it works in a foreign country, and then when he gets in a hostile environment, he's willing to pardon one just to get them to start cheering. He was hoping that it would turn the crowd around. That's why he said it. It wasn't because he meant it, wasn't because he believed it, wasn't because he gave a damn about Ross. It was because, hey, I'm in a hole here, I got to dig myself out. But the problem is, it didn't work. He dug himself deeper and deeper and deeper until he was booed completely off the stage. And I would love to see that more, folks. I really would. I really hope we live to see the day where Donald Trump can't speak without everyone booing him off the damn stage.